coming through, making the show, people interacting, listening to the show really is important. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Sunday Fun Day at P&G. Committed, absolutely committed to radio presenting. It's not like it's my first presentation. I'm here. I've been here for the last 2 years. Been here for the last 2 years. Really, really am enjoying it. Different people, different ethnicities, different culturalisms, all coming in supporting the show. Got a guy in Iraq or Iran. I'm not sure which one Iran. Always helps me to get more subscribers. Very beneficial. People supporting the show and some great people from across the globe are helping me support the show. I'm not a fascist in any shape or form. I've got different political views, obviously, but so real, so real. I try and support all parties. Obviously, being a conservative, it's you know it's like me being Arsenal supporter, supporting Tottenham for the day. But I would if I like sport. I don't really like football, though, unfortunately. But anyway, thank you all for coming through. Let's talk politics and football. Don't really rub off well, do they? It's like chalk and cheese. But anyway, ladies and gents, thank you for watching come through. It's proclamation news and Gavance with the prodigious, the prominent professor at P&G. Sunday, the 20th of September 2020. What is going on in today's society? We've had some great talk shows. We talk about different things, wildlife, things that people don't think about. Wildlife. Proclamation news and Gavin. Some of you come through, think, what's this about? What's he talking about? What's he presenting PNG? What's proclamation news and Gavin? PNG, why? Because we are committed to what we do. 24/7 hours around the clock, we study the world as it seems a sociological change for all of us. The good will become brighter and the bad may not fall through. But we support each dependent and there is change. Clarify your actions and make it possible because I believe nothing is impossible if you make that change. Nobody's picture perfect. I still have rough edges to make it as a perfectionist, believe me. So, everyone can commit to change. But it's down to you to make that change. It's down to you to give up hatred towards other people's path. Everyone's got a legacy. Everyone's got compassion they want to aim towards to better themselves, better their well-being, better their mental behaviour, their mental desire from trying to cut other people up to better themselves. So that doesn't work in today's modern society. Hating on one another does not work in today's society. Building better evaluation, better concept, the way you think about other people's actions. If some people could do good, they may have a few things they need to make amends. Rather than mock their abilitations, look at the worst people in life, the drug dealers, the narcotic abusers, the alcoholics. Look at the people that are below us, that blow, the incentives in life. Try and support them rather than mocking others that try and do good in life. Because people that try and do good in life, they're good idolism. I was about to say idolism for children. You want kids to look up to people that try and do good Samaritans. Good Samaritans, aren't they? But good Samaritans. Trying to do good in life, trying to preach good news. Alcohol, narcotics is sin all over the globe. It's big sin all over the globe. Don't indulge in it. Don't get involved in it. Fascism, getting involved in gangs, bad thing to do. Bad move to do. Get involved in it. Some of us may have been. Some of us lead a narrow-minded life, which other people don't see. No one's perfect in life. Been involved in sport, been involved in different communities, sociological change, exactly what I'm talking about. So, until you admit your sins, you'll never better yourself. Anyone, throughout their life could well be entitled to a metropolitan lunatic asylum if they held their hands up. But thank you all for coming through. Castbox FM, I appreciate everyone come through. It means a lot. People, I've met some great people the last few days. I know who I am. I know where I want to be. I know the good and the bad in everybody. Everyone's got them rough edges they don't own up to. You've got people risking others' lives. Probably sitting down today thinking, why did I get involved in such a risky business for my family and loved ones? Because if COVID-19 is 100% accurate, I mean, some things in the media can argue the case. It could be a conspiracy theory, but if it isn't, why take the risk? Why take the risk? Why would you take the risk? Politicians, people saying they- you know, they're just as bad as gangsters. How do you know? How do you know? Have you got proof? Have you got proof? Why protest against it just in case it is true? And that people in NHS say COVID-19 is true. Some people in NHS say it isn't because there hasn't been no COVID convictions in the hospital. But a lot of hospitals that I know people that work in the NHS have said COVID is real and people are dying. So them small minority, why would you risk it for the sake of your loved ones, dad, your mum, your nan, your granddad, your sister, your brother, your niece, your nephew, your son, your daughter? Why would you risk it? Ask yourself for that. Why would you risk someone else's life through COVID? Proclamation news and gatherings, ladies and gents. I'm not sure how long this cast is going to go today, but I like to put in my journalism, keeping people updated what's going on, where people making wrong turns in life. I mean, you preach Bible. You can go to different churches throughout your livelihood, and it can be, preached in the wrong way. You've got to respect everyone equal. Equality is important. Equality is in any society. Discrimination act. You've got to be careful how you preach Jesus nowadays. In modern society, you've got gays, you've got transvestites. You've got to be careful how you upset one another. As Jesus says in the Bible, obviously back then, this whole history, isn't it? Old hat, the way they preached it back then. Love your neighbour. Love thy neighbour like you love like you like yourself. Like you love yourself like you like yourself to be loved. So no matter what your neighbour is, transvestite, gay, you have to love your neighbour. Back then in history times, that wasn't around. It wasn't allowed. The law was different. Laws changed over time. You can't discriminate. And also, different religions should all stick together. Looking at World War One, there were Muslims in our culture. 2,500,000 Muslim soldiers fought in a battle with British soldiers to protect England. So anyway, moving on, ladies and gents. HSBC moves scam million, big banking leak shows. The transfer took place after officials were told of the $80 million fraud, according to leaked documents that reveal how some of the world's biggest banks allowed criminals to move dirty money around the globe. HSBC, anyone with HSBC? $80 million. Thank you so much, Kev, for supporting us. I really appreciate it. And I'll be with you shortly. We're going to international politics. Anyway, which way politics? Unfortunately, politics is involved in everyone's everyday life. I mean, people go, now I don't like politics, but that corruption down the HSBC could have been part of your life, could have been part of your bank balance. Now you know. I'll give you DWP updates. People could be entitled to £400 extra. Donald Trump's health secretary and a key member of White House coronavirus task force defended the administration handling of the pandemic and interest the president and a senior public health aide were both correct when they made contradictory statements about their immensity of the effect foreseen. Looking at the related 19 maps of US, latest cases state by state. According to Johns Hopkins University, by Sunday morning, 199,155 people had died of COVID-19 in the US, suggested that the current death rate, 200,000, would be reached later in the day on Monday. Other accounts put the death toll higher. Early in the pandemic, Trump said keeping deaths to 100,000 would represent a very good job. The president's handling on the outbreak has been widely planned, not at least after revelations By the reporter Bob Woodward that Trump admitted knowing the seriousness of the threat early on but said he had played it down. This week, Trump also came under fire from a former member of his task force, Olivia Troye, who said if the president had taken the virus seriously, he would have slowed the virus spread. He would have saved lives. On the Capitol Hill on Wednesday, CDC Director Robert Redfield told the Senate a vaccine would not generally be available until the middle of 2021, adding that if one were available before the end of this year, it would be limited to emergency personnel and vulnerable people. Hi George, you're going live tonight, George, on your cast. I'll come and say hello if you are. I'm going to finish up what I'm doing now. I'll be right with you. Trump said, I think he made a mistake with the statement. When he said it, I believe he was confused. I'm just telling you, we are ready to go. Appearing on CNN's State the Union on Sunday, Assistant Health Secretary Adam Brett Gurvey said Dr. Redfield was correct but offered a less ringing endorsement for Trump, saying the president is correct in the segment that he spoke about. Trump's eagerness to promote a vaccine pairs with his refusal to enforce public health measures at campaign rallies as election day approaches. The president remains behind Joe Biden in national polls and in most key states on Sunday. An ABC iPolls, IPCOS poll found 69% of respondents did not trust Trump's claims about the vaccine. Bagheera was asked why Trump was making promises about a vaccine that none of us experts agree with. I did think Joe Biden would take its toll in the end. I must admit, a lot of people, Joe Biden does speak quite fluent, and I think his politics is quite formidable. President Trump said that by some projections, according to the manufacturer, if things go as planned, we could have as many as 100 million doses by the end of the year. That is correct. Gira added that if early in November and December, if we have 5% or 10% of the population that we can vaccinate, we can get 80 or 9% of the benefits. For example, if we can vaccinate workers in nursing homes, we will protect the elderly and the vulnerable from the disease. That would make an enormous impact of mortality. If we could vaccinate our teachers and those pre-existing conditions or those surrounding those people. Redfield also told the Senate face masks were more guaranteed to protect me against the COVID. When I take a COVID vaccine, which would not always, a lot of people did not like the concept of masks initially. Dr. Fauci did not like it initially. In fact, Anthony Fauci, the head of National Institute for Allergy and Infectious Diseases, he said he advised against masks early in the pandemic in an attempt to stop stocks being depleted. On NBC's Meet the Press, Health Secretary Alex Azar said, I think the point the president was making is there is not equivalence between masks and vaccines. Asked about reports that a US Postal Service planned to mail masks to all Americans early in the pandemic was scrapped for political reasons, he said it had not been pursued because the administration chose to distribute masks in other ways. Giro, who asked about the Trump's campaign refusal to implement public health regulations at its rallies. Other insisting on masks for people seen behind the president on camera. Tory former Vice President Mike Pence, National Security Advisor, said Trump made derogatory comments about such rally-goers, who he called disgusting people. Hope you're all keeping up to date, guys. I'll be, Joe, I'd really, really be thankful if you can help me share and subscribe. Maybe get a few of your friends to subscribe. Really appreciate it. I put a lot of hard work and effort. I've been sat here 2 years, pretty much religiously, methodically, every day. I do get breaks because there's a couple of days here and there because I've got family problems. We all have family problems. We always have problems in life, that go beyond just streaming every day. I try to keep up on top of the UK politics, keeping people occupied at a time hardest, to keep people busy, keep people subscribing. COVID-19 self-isolated finds under discussion in Scotland. So we're looking at all over the globe, aren't we? We've got US, Scotland, most of the UK. Large fines penalising those who fall to self-isolate and under discussion in Scotland, according to the Scottish Health Secretary. Jeanne Freeman told Politics Scotland the issue would be under discussion this weekend, despite showing some resistance to the idea. She said the policy risking pushing those who face financial difficulties. The measure will be introduced in England from September the 28th with fines up to £10,000. The new legal duty requires people to self-isolate if they are positive for the coronavirus or are traced as a close contact. On Sunday, 245 new cases of COVID reported in Scotland, which amounts to 5.4% of those tested. No new deaths were reported, and of the 64 people in hospital with recently confirmed COVID-19, 9 were intensive care. By comparison, 450 new cases were reported in Scotland on Saturday, the highest daily increase since May. Ms Freeman said there was evidence to show the steep rise in cases has been blunted following additional measures in some local authorities in the West, but said there was still real concern. When asked whether the Scottish Government would consider imposing similar fines in place in England, the Health Secretary said the issue needed to be examined the other way round. I think what you need to do is look at what the obstacles are in somebody's way who wants to self-isolate, wants to do the right thing, but may have difficulties in doing so. One of these will be financial difficulties, so there may be needs to be an extension to ensure that we can offer financial support before you start talking about pushing people for not doing something that they want to do. She added that she wanted to avoid penalising those on fragile zero-hour contracts and low wages. Scottish Labour leader Richard Leonard has called on Scottish Government to learn lessons from the March lockdown and safeguard anxious workers. He said with furlough due to the end of next month, Nicola Sturgeon must stop the blame game with the UK Government and ensure the Scottish workers have the protections they need with the bespoke scheme that recognises the specific requirements of Scotland's economy. I mean, I wonder if you get a goodwill gesture, goodwill payment for staying indoors, for not, interacting, not going to market stalls. I mean, one of our markets are, not no disrespect, obviously everyone's got to make money, but our markets corresponding in such atmosphere, atmospheric pressure, absolutely, for economic systems in markets. Our markets are, I can imagine there's strict rules in outdoor markets, people gathering around markets must be very risky business. Outdoor environment, people must be acting as usual, queuing up, all close together, or is there a legal system like around the shopping centre, supermarket? It did cross my mind actually. How are markets running, or aren't they? It's big crisis for everyone economically. Absolute public austerity for everyone. Big shock. People getting furloughed off. Can they get furloughed for a market stall? It's a business, isn't it? We will look at all measures. Miss Freeman said there were already spot fines available to police Scotland if someone knowingly and deliberately broke the rules. I wouldn't know about markets because I don't go into town. I don't know nothing about markets, how they still working. Anyone here that know how markets are working or not? Can they clarify? Can they relate to what I'm saying? Use market stall, fruit and veg stall. Is it going? In August, figures were revealed showing that people living in the most deprived areas were up to 12 times more likely to be given fines for flouting COVID restrictions. Ms Freeman said, we will look at the measures that are all to support people, do what we are asking, and any measures we think necessary deal with those who willingly and knowingly float those guidelines. She added that the Scottish Government was waiting to hear whether Boris Johnson would answer its call for all four nations COBRA meeting to discuss further measures. However, she said if this did not go ahead, the Scottish Government would take decisions at place that are right for Scotland. Scottish Conservatives leader Douglas Ross, thank you Pix, who had previously taken a stand against Boris Johnson by resigning over the action of Dominic Cummings, said he wanted to see the Scottish and the UK governments work together on issues such as the furlough scheme. He added that several industries were still struggling, and he would be speaking to the Chancellor to see what could be done for those industries. Ladies and gents, if you're listening, please follow my YouTube and subscribe. Doing my daily journalism, I'm in the thick of things in deep south with politics. It's my study. I enjoy it, and I appreciate anyone that can subscribe, help me build the show. I think I'll put a welcome message on my media if you can, the stream where to find it and subscribe. I appreciate it. Good. I've got a lot of different various things on my YouTube, singing, all kinds of stuff, making their own songs. Brexit. Amy Connolly quits government. The envoy role of the law break plan. Amy Connolly has quit her role as UK's envoy on press freedom, in dismay at the government's willingness to break international law over Brexit. The human rights lawyer said it is lamentable for Boris Johnson to be contemplating overriding the Brexit agreement he signed last year. She could not tell others to honour legal obligations when the UK declares it does not intend to do itself. The PM, she says he does not want to use powers into the internal market bill, but he says the legislation is necessary to give the government the power to protect the UK and part, um, particularly Northern Ireland if trade talks fail and the EU acts unreasonably. In her registration letter, Miss Clooney, who is married to Hollywood star actor George Clooney, said she had accepted the job last year because the UK's historic role in upholding the international legal border. But she said the government's attempt to pass the Internal Market Bill, which passed its first Thursday in the Commons last week, made her position untenable. No assurance. She said she had decided to quit after speaking to the Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab and getting no assurance that any change of her position is imminent. She added, "It is lamentable for the UK to be speaking of its intention to violate an international treaty signed by the Prime Minister less than a year ago. It has become untenable for me, as Special Envoy, to urge other states to respect and enforce international obligations while the UK declares that it does not intend to do it itself." Miss Clooney was appointed by Jeremy Hunt, Mr A's predecessor, during the final months of Theresa May's government and continued in the role after Boris Johnson took over number 10. She was deputy of the chair of a high-level panel of legal experts, which works with the UK and Canadian governments of their campaign to promote media freedom around the world. Obviously, going with Brexit, her job's going to slightly change, so she's doing the foreseeable thing for her job. She's given up because she's no longer be needed. Unfortunate for her, but it's what's in politics that matters. Unfortunate for her. Conflict Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer. He used to practice in the same barristers' chambers as Miss Clooney. Said she had taken the right decision. "I know Amel, and she is a first-class lawyer. I'm not surprised that she has quit because, like others, she's concluded that there is conflict between a breach of international law, which the government seems intent on, and our reputation as a country in the world that abides by the rule of law," he said. Her resignation adds to a growing list of senior legal figures who have quit their roles in disquiet at the government's position. Lord King resigned as Advocate General for Scotland on Wednesday, saying he found it increasingly difficult to reconcile his obligations as a lawyer with the provisions in the legislation. The government's most senior legal advisor, Sir Jonathan Jones, permanent secretary to the government legal department, had already resigned, as had the UK's envoy for the protection of religious freedoms, Tory MP Raymond Christie. The EU has demanded the government remove sections of the bill which would give the UK the power to override agreements on the movement of goods between Northern Ireland and Britain and subsidise for Northern Ireland companies. Northern Ireland Secretary Brandon Lewis has admitted the powers, if they were ever used, would break the UK's treaty obligations under international law in a specific and limited way. The Prime Minister has sought to quell a potential rebellion by Tory MPs next week by promising critics that all the Commons will get a specific vote on the powers before the government can use them. A former Conservative leader, Lord Howard, has said the PM needs to go further, saying it is a matter of principle, and he doubted whether the Lords would back the bill as it stands. PNG, ladies and gentlemen, please subscribe. It's beneficial to subscribe. Help me push the show forward. Once I get 1,000 subscribers, I'll be able to go live anywhere, each and anywhere. So only indoors when I'm indoors at the moment. Next summer, I hope to be out in the sun, get some more polarised real life politics in different constituencies. Labour urges pay rises for care workers for COVID sacrifices. Labour is calling for a guaranteed pay rise for care workers in England as the party prepares what has been billed as a virtual party conference. Care workers do need a pay rise, absolutely. I mean, they're putting their own life at risk. Its deputy leader, Andrew Rayner, will say low pay in industry is a moral outrage, given the sacrifice of staff during the coronavirus pandemic. Minimum pay rates of £9.30 an hour and £10.75 in London, and needing to pay the rent or put food on the table. Ministers say 600 staff are gaining from a rise in national living wage. Now among those who will see their take-home pay increase by £930 a year, following April's 6% rise in the national living wage from £8.21 to £8.72 an hour. The government has set a target of increasing it to more than £10.50 by 2024, which will represent 65% of the median UK earnings. But Miss Rayner will insist that 1.2 million care workers in England deserve a real living wage. Now, if they are to pay the bills and support their families, Labour has been forced to cancel its traditional party conference, which is due to be held in Liverpool due to the virus and other political parties. Instead, the party is holding a series of virtual events in a Labour Connected banner, starting with Women's Connected event for female members on Saturday. Party leader Sir Keir Starmer is due to make a keynote speech. In his first since being elected in April, on Tuesday, in which he is expected to set out his vision for his party, Miss Rayner, who was also elected in April, who used a series of media appearances on Saturday to attack the government failure to adequately protect care homes and their staff during the pandemic. She will claim the government's incompetence has contributed to the deaths of 15,000 care home residents and she will say that staff that have put their lives on the line deserves a better pay deal as quickly as possible. Empty gestures. Miss Rayner, who represented care workers as a union official before entering Parliament, will cite research suggesting the median hour wage in the independent care sector before the pandemic was £8.10 an hour. She will back in a living wage foundation call for the hourly pay rates of £9.30 an hour and £10.75 in London. For the care sector, which the organisation says is needed for workers to get by and cope with the cost of living. The Prime Minister and the government ministers have fallen over themselves to clap for our carers and offer them warm foods. But applause and empty gestures don't pay the rent or put food on the table. She will say, we can't clap for our key workers and then abandon them. We can't go back to business as usual. We're the very same people who have helped to get our country through the crisis, as we're still underpaid and undervalued. After all the sacrifice and bravery, the very least that our care workers deserve is a pay rise. The Conservative says, while ministers were not responsible for directly setting pay for care workers, changes to national living wage meant a full-time worker will have seen their income go up by 3,600 since 2016. It's very important, care workers, and you think of all times, care workers, we need them more now than ever. Need them more now than in the building industry. Need them more now with what's going on today in society. They need more support. Tax cuts and increases of national living wage brought by the Conservatives have benefited millions of the lowest paid, including those who provide vital care, said the party's chairwoman Amanda Milling. Conservative sources said that Labour must explain how it pay for pay rises. For staff working in private homes, the government is considering calls from the sector from a huge injection of funding As part of its current spending review, and Abbey claims a further 7.5 billion will be needed just to meet the current pledges by 2025. Boris Johnson promised to find a lasting solution to the crisis in social care when he took office in July 2019, but a blueprint for future reforms is now expected until next year. In the meantime, ministers have pledged 1.5 billion in additional funding each year as well supported prepare care homes for a second wave of the virus, including free protective equipment for care workers, limiting the movement of staff between care homes and improved infection control measures. Ladies and gents, it's Proclamation News and Gatherings. Thank you all so much for coming in. Appreciate it. A lot of people come through supporting. Thank you, Tony. You've been here again. Appreciate you coming through. Everyone else listening, if you can subscribe to Proclamation News and Gatherings, I'm going to give you the update. Thanks again for liking the show. Appreciate you all so much. I just want to build a bigger, better platform. Hope we get more listeners. I know a lot of these other journalists are paid for subscribers, are paid for people watching. I'm not in a financial situation. I haven't got a big business behind me backing me, but I'm starting small, growing. I'm growing because I'm back here every day doing a methodical madness thing. I'm a great presenter. I've been told by many people I've got a face for the radio. I've got I can emphasise pretty well as well. I've done a lot of acting in my time. I appreciate you all come through. If we can help share and subscribe, guys, Castbox and everything else I'm on, appreciate it. And so take care. God bless. It's Sunday fun day. It's over and out. Monday morning tomorrow. I don't like Mondays. Tell me more. Take care, ladies and gents. God bless. Thank you for coming in. Appreciate it.